Today on Baltic Defense Review, we're taking a look at the AK5 family of Swedish rifles, a platform that has faithfully served Sweden for roughly 4 decades and is now being phased out in favour of the AR-pattern SAKO AK24. We're sure many Swedes have grown attached to the AK5 and are sad to see it phased out. However, the country is long overdue in replacing these service rifles, which are very much at the end of their useful lives. But while all the buzz these days has to do with the shiny new weapons taking over, we wanted to spotlight the rifle being replaced. Let's get started. By the mid-1970s, Sweden's standard infantry rifle was the AK4, a licensed version of the Heckler & Koch G3 chambered in 7.62 by 51mm NATO. The AK4 was accurate and powerful, but heavy. Heavy ammunition, strong recoil, and limited controllability in automatic fire increasingly ran counter to global small arms trends. Around the world, militaries were shifting toward lighter, intermediate calibers, especially 5.56 by 45mm, emphasizing mobility, controllability, and increased ammunition loadout. How was Sweden going to replace the AK4 for its forces? Well, the trials were crowded and diverse. Among many contenders, there were a few notable ones. There was the Heckler & Koch AK24, a roller-delayed blowback rifle offering identical manual of arms to the AK4 and similar production methods that Swedes were already familiar with. Yet H&K couldn't replicate the G3's success in 5.56mm, and it fell short. There was the FFV 890C, a close runner-up in the trials. This was a domestically assembled Israeli IMI Galil derivative with several Swedish modifications. Interestingly, its lineage traces back to Finland's RK62, meaning Sweden nearly adopted a Finnish-derived rifle decades prior to SAKO's AK24. But ultimately, the rifle that won was Belgian, the FN-FNC. The rifle did not emerge in isolation. It was the product of FN's Cold War evolution. Belgium's small arms lineage moved from the legendary 7.62mm FN-FAL battle rifle toward lighter intermediate concepts. An attempt at downscaling the battle rifle to 5.56mm directly, the FN-CAL, failed, much like the HK33. But lessons learned from the CAL led to the development of the FNC. Chambered in 5.56 by 45mm NATO, it was a long-stroke gas piston rotating bolt-operated rifle, unlike previous FN designs and more like the Soviet AK. In Sweden's trials, the FNC was not dramatically superior in raw performance to the FFV 890C. What mattered, however, was balance, a balance of comparable reliability and lower production cost. That pragmatic combination was what won the contract. With a conscript system and a fairly large armed force seeing up to 50,000 conscripts per year go through training, these carbines would be guaranteed to see extensive use and abuse at the hands of Swedes learning basic soldiering skills. Sweden adopted the FNC, but it did not leave it untouched. Manufactured by FFV Ordnance AB, later becoming Saab Bofors Dynamics, the Swedish version was designated the AK5, Automatkarbin 5, within the Swedish forces. Several changes were implemented to make the rifle suitable to the harsh Arctic environments. Thicker profile barrel than the standard FNC, improving heat dispersion and sustained fire capability, applying a climate-resistant protective finish, having an enlarged trigger guard for winter gloves, enlarged hand guards, and later specific stock options. The original FNC and early AK5s also lacked a last-round bolt hold-open. Later versions of the AK5 incorporated it, improving reload ergonomics and immediate status awareness. Finally, the removal of the 3-round burst was also a major change between AK5 and FNC. There was also a modified gas regulator that resulted in a lower rate of fire on the 5A. This was amended on later versions with a fixed gas setting. Over time, the AK5 family expanded into several variants. The AK5C, the standard service rifle with the M203 underbarrel grenade launcher mounting option. The AK5B, the designated marksman configuration with optics such as the SUSAT and a cheek riser. And then there's the AK5D, a 10.3-inch or 260mm compact PDW variant with iron sights, and mostly used by tank crews or Jaegers. Some photos out there show the 5D without iron sights, but a Swedish military veteran tells us that the variant featured the same kind of iron sights as the 5C. The CG AK5P, short carbine produced by Carl Gustaf with backup iron sights, and finally the AK5P, a semi-automatic police model. Over the years, the AK5 family went through several modernization programs. There was the addition of modular handguards, the addition of Picatinny top rails for optics, and adding adjustable length polymer stocks, as well as ambidextrous fire selector. These upgrades extended the rifle's tactical relevance, but they also introduced a recurring issue: weight. The AK5 began heavier than many modern carbines, and each layer of rails, modular furniture, and accessories compounded that disadvantage. Weight was about 3.9 kilograms empty and 4.5 kilograms loaded with a 30-round magazine. One initiative to address weight had to do with magazines, as early versions relied on metal Stanag magazines. During the modernization efforts, Sweden purpose-built semi-translucent polymer magazines with a waffle-style reinforcement pattern similar to Steyr AUG magazines. This was because not every polymer Stanag magazine on the market was 100% compatible. Notably, one of the most common magazines around the world, first-generation and second-generation Magpul P-Mags, did not work due to dimensional differences since the design was focused around the American M4. We've been told by a former service member that these days a lot of units have actually switched back to regular metal magazines due to polymer mags experiencing cracks and damage to feed lips, particularly in colder climates. Other limitations beyond weight included a right-hand-only charging handle and right-biased controls, a limited Stanag magazine compatibility, and architectural limits to modularity compared to modern AR derivatives. But despite these factors, the AK5 did or does have its strengths. It offered excellent reliability in harsh environments, it had climate-specific adaptations suited for Swedish service, its thicker barrel offered improved sustained fire characteristics, and it balanced production cost with mechanical simplicity at time of adoption. The AK5's ruggedness and cold weather resilience remain valid strengths, but the AR platform's flexibility, ergonomic refinement, and logistical advantages ultimately made it a logical long-term successor. The AK5 was not a revolutionary rifle. Rather, it was something arguably more important, a pragmatic national adaptation of a Cold War export design, strengthened for Swedish winters, refined over decades, and trusted by generations of soldiers over nearly half a century. Indeed, consulting some former Swedish service members, that sentiment was echoed, with one individual telling us, "The AK5s have been used not only in our own Arctic climate, but also in Afghanistan, several countries in Africa, and in the Balkans. Never have I heard nor read about a Swedish soldier wishing he had another carbine during their employment. Yes, it is a bit on the heavy side, but with its folding stock, it is nimble when it needs to be." The same individual adds that they've carried, skied with, ridden in APCs with the AK5, firing tens of thousands of rounds over their 15 years of service. Never have they had a failure to fire that could not be fixed from their firing position. The AK5 bridged the gap between heavy battle rifles and today's modular carbines. Its impending retirement is not a rejection of its merits, instead it's recognition that doctrine, equipment, and expectations have evolved. Thus, it becomes very, very clear that the incoming AK24s have big shoes to fill. But what do you think about the AK5? For those that have used it, are you sad to see it replaced? Let us know by leaving a comment.